So what made you think, like, hey, Deadpool and Wolverine would be a fun one to talk to those guys about?
You probably don't remember this, but while you were talking to the person who did that documentary, the Confused Matthew documentary, you said it might be fun to have him on the podcast to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I would have Confused Matthew on in a heartbeat for sure. Yeah, you know, like a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine it'd be really fun to have him on there. It was my idea. Yeah, well, and the reason was now I remember. The reason was because that's a movie that, you know, EJ put it this way early on when we watched. Like, I think we both rated it a top fiver for last year. Like, we really liked it. We revisit the scenes, and it's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
You know, in the last 5 years, there haven't been too many crowd pleasers that have come to cinemas. So it stood out for sure. And yeah, like he said it in the opening of our review. He's like, I don't think it's a very good movie.
I think kind of as a movie, it's bad.
You know, I think by that, we mean like, you know what, Dan? I think I say this all the time, and you might have been the first person I ever heard say this, was to make that a meaningful distinction between plot and story.
Yes.
The vision and thematics of a film versus the mechanics of how that plays out.
Yeah.
And that's a movie that has like a pretty chaotic, sloppy fucking plot, like that barely hangs together, frankly. With, I think at times, maybe not from beginning to end, but mostly a pretty decent story. Yeah. I think the whole, like, the worst Wolverine thing, you were the worst Wolverine. Actually, no, you're the best Wolverine. That, I think that, like, of all the ways to grow a character in this awful multiverse thing that we find ourselves stuck in, I thought that was pretty clever. But what do you think? Do you like that movie? Or is it Hitler?
No, it's not Hitler. It's Stalin at best. No, I like
some mass grave somewhere.
Hitler pool.
Yeah. No, I like all the Deadpool films, as a matter of fact. Deadpool is a Marvel character. For those that don't know, I don't know very much about Marvel. And for the longest time, I didn't know much about DC until around 2015. And then I became a DC fanatic. I love DC.
Yeah, you're a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big DC fan now. It's a shame what happened to those films. And by that, I mean Zack Snyder. But we live and we learn. I don't know very much about Marvel, but I did know a fair bit about Deadpool even before the first film. Because Deadpool was based on... He was sort of a riff on a DC character, which is Deathstroke. Marvel and DC would often do these things where they would make like parody versions of the other's properties just to get on the other's nerves. And that's how Deadpool kind of started out. And then after a while, he became the fourth wall breaking sort of Bugs Bunny type character. So I knew a little, I didn't know much, but I knew what his origins were, and I knew what that character was like in his comics. And I thought to myself, they're never going to be able to make a movie out of this. It would have to be X-rated. And it would have to be like Space Jam, where he's a cartoon and everything else is like, because how could you do something this goofy and ridiculous and obscene in a film that people go and watch? And lo and behold, they did it. They didn't pull any punches. And
after a failed attempt with trying to incorporate him in X-Men Origins, yeah.
Oh yeah,
we don't talk about.
But we don't acknowledge this. Yeah.
I thought they did an exceptionally good job bringing that character to the screen. I think Ryan Reynolds was born to play that role. His timing in those films and his comedic presence is above and beyond anything that he's done in his career. This is the one he's going to be remembered for. I really like all the films, and I liked this film too. I had a lot of problems with it that I didn't have in the other films, but it was just as entertaining, just as funny. Yeah, I did like it. I did like the film.
Remember, like the problem with Iron Man 2, it was basically an advertisement for movies to come, right? And so like it can't be its own movie.
Yes,
I think that could be a legitimate critique of this one, where like it's so wrapped up in other properties and other references that like it can't be its own thing. Not that Deadpool doesn't live and die by references.
Right. This one, I think, probably goes the hardest on the references. And as I say, I'm not really a Marvel guy, so some of them were kind of lost on me. I think this film's biggest weakness is that, unlike the other two films, it only has one joke. And the joke is, here's all the properties that Marvel would rather you forget. And here's where they all went. And when they meet Chris Evans in that godforsaken wasteland, and we all naturally think that he's Captain America, and it turns out that he's Johnny Storm or whatever from the terrible Fantastic Four film, I thought that was inspired. That was one of the best
It's a very
jokes in
funny
the film.
joke.
I didn't see it coming. I laughed my ass off. Unfortunately, it kind of peaked there.
Well, to your point, that becomes the joke for the rest of the movie, right?
Again and again and again. And sometimes it's not even a joke. Like when they meet Blade and Elektra.
Here's Blade and Elektra.
Or Gambit, whose movie never got made in the first place. So you even kind of have to know some entertainment news to understand the jokes.
I was lost. I had no idea what that. I had to look it up afterward to like, was there a Gambit movie? Like, but okay, this. Oh, okay.
I was confused myself. I'm like, I know there was a lot of movies.
So I don't mean to say that it wasn't, I guess, kind of nice to see some of these cameos, and I don't mean to say that it was necessarily a bad idea. I just don't think it carries a film. I was ready for them to get out of that place and do something else after a while, and they spent way too long in that wasteland as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if you were deeply familiar with all of those films, if you were a Wesley Snipes Blade guy, do you think it would have worked better on you?
That's really hard for me to answer. If I was the kind of person who I think was more excited about things like that, yes, I think that would have played better. If they were characters that I knew about and that I liked, I think I would have been just as bored. Because when you see Blade sitting there, that's it. The second you see him, it's over, and everything else is just him being there. And same with Elektra, and same with that movie did not incorporate those characters in any meaningful way. They're just there to be references. I think maybe if they were more involved in the film, but I don't think they wanted that, because the Deadpool and Wolverine team up, from what I understand, is something that fans really, really wanted. They wanted those two to interact. And those two characters' interactions, absolutely spot on. I think the problem with the cameos is that they interrupt that interplay between straight man Wolverine and comedy man Deadpool a little bit too much.
Yeah, it kind of gets in the way of the central thing that works. That's a good point.
The most entertaining part of that film for me was the fight scene in the van. And I'll tell you, if you will allow me to be completely unfair for a moment, the thing that kept on going through my mind when that fight scene in the van was happening was the ending of Avengers Endgame. This completely overstuffed, overproduced, overdone, bad green screen, obviously choreographed mess of fighting and garbage that means nothing and is only tangentially related to anything that even matters in this film. And then I'm watching the scene where they have two characters in this isolated small little area just fighting each other to the tune of Grease, no less. And it's a million times better choreographed and more interesting and more entertaining. I understand that it's not apples to apples because I'm comparing a Big Finish of a final film.
It's a point well made. I remember when the first Avengers came out, and I remember audiences. Of course, that movie was received extremely well.
Yeah.
But I remember audiences being like, honestly, I liked the scenes where they were all just like in the control room, like arguing with one another. And I preferred those over the action sequences in many cases.
Yeah. And they would do the like embarrassing shots with like where all the women make poses, and you're just like, and it's totally green screen. Everyone, they might not even be in the same room. We don't know.
Let's all stand together separately.
Was that green screen? I couldn't tell.
At least one or two of them wasn't there. You know how expensive it would be.
Oh my God! I know people worked hard on that thing, and I know for God's sake, there's like 600 characters at once on screen. What are they going to do besides green screen? Okay, I don't think it worked out as well as they thought it did, and I know audiences kind of liked it. Just seeing everybody on screen for a little while, but that kind of had the same problem of once you see him, it's kind of done, and you just want the movie to be over with. You want Iron Man to
Endgame, you could argue works a little bit better than people seem to prefer Infinity War actually to Endgame, but I would have enjoyed that scene a lot more if they had figured out a way to get a big splash of color into it. But that mud, I think does the green screen type of stuff no favors, frankly. But I do remember in that scene. The Russos, I think, are good directors. I remember them attending pretty well to characters and character moments.
Yes.
Like Tony and his wife, like, fighting in the air together. Ant-Man's got a little story happening. The Hulk and Rocket have a little story happening. I thought the Russos, like, tried to find every opportunity to tell little stories during the action. The action I hate the most is when, like, I guess I'm just watching VFX and stunts.
Yeah.
And, it's the most exhausting thing ever. Like, I'm just kind of waiting for it to be over, frankly.
Yeah. I can appreciate what the Russo's job was, which was to get like 900 billion characters on screen at once. It's an impossible job. And I do like the Russo brothers. I think they're good directors. I'm not a big fan of the Marvel films, but they made some good ones. I really did like Infinity War, and I liked
Winter Soldier.
Yes. Winter Soldier was really good.
Yeah, it's really
the
good.
Russos came off of Community, if I'm not mistaken. They used to direct.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
They lucked out so hard with those guys.
I don't know if you have ever seen Community. They did a great job there too. They're very talented.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from
They're
them.
incredible, and they're coming back because nobody else can do it.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Talented people are rare. Like they found James Gunn, and like he went off, and now he owns a different joint. He gets to make any movie he wants.
How about that, James? He went from doing Super to doing everything.
Superman.
Yeah, Superman. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, from Super to Superman. That's his autobiography.
Yeah. Good on him.
I think the Superman trailer, I heard a lot of people saying like I'm worried it's going to be the Suicide Squad or the Guardians of the Galaxy comedy tone or something. I'm like, what? He'd have to be very fucking stupid to make a Superman movie that's like cynical and sarcastic or something. I don't think that's what's in store.
Superman's going to get a bunch of misfits together. And they're gonna.
I'm not terribly worried about the Superman film. It's just a trailer. The trailer looks good. I'm a sucker. And I did say, oh my God, Crypto's in this. 10 out of 10 already.
Yeah. That's a cute dog.
It's a unique kind of dog too. It's not a golden retriever. He's
a cute little doggy wog. What can I say? I'm easy to please.
It's got James Gunn movies are going to come with a personality, and like so often, I think what you're looking for in a movie is something that it's the same thing you're looking for in a friendship or in a relationship or whatever. You're looking for somebody who offers something authentic. And so even I think he's the kind of filmmaker where even if I'm not totally in step with what he's doing, I like that he's making decisions. I like that he's making artistic choices. I'm kind of there for that.
Well, if people are worried about the Superman movie that James Gunn is releasing, all I can do is I can point to Man of Steel and say he couldn't do much worse.
There's people out there that love that movie.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to say that to Snyder fans. Yeah,
No, I know.
They're brutal.
I actually think, well, now you got me thinking. I was about to say, I think I prefer Batman v Superman to Man of Steel. I really don't like Man of Steel, but I don't know. BVS.
Man of Steel's a bit much.
It's pretty shit. I never saw the extended version. People tell me, oh, you got to watch an extra hour of it. Then it all makes sense. Like, fuck off.
I mean, granted, if you watch the extended version of Batman v Superman, there's some things that make more sense in terms of how they happened. But the movie doesn't make any more sense. It's the same movie. It's just with more details.
Right. Although, I say that, and yet the Snyder cut of Justice League I thought was actually an excellent movie.
So did I. Yeah.
The theatrical cut I thought was garbage. And so now I'm left very confused and very lost in the wilderness where I'm like, wait, was there a vision for these movies?
I was so ready to be an I told you so and to say that this, he's not.
Me too.
He's not going to make 2 garbage films and then come out and make a great film. No, it was great. It was great.
It was it's very confusing.
Yeah.
Because Batman v Superman I can't. It's like there's like piss that says peach tea in the Capitol and it explodes. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
No.
But then you watched Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League and you're like, where the fuck was this Zack Snyder? Why didn't you come out with this one? Like,
it's possible the studio was fucking with him. It is possible.
I don't think so. I think if the studio was in control of Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, we would have got what we got with the other version of the Justice League, which was you did that.
Yeah, you're right. That seemed like a studio, like, hey, can we get some color in here? Can we maybe a few jokes and can we cut it down to 90 minutes or something? People are walking out.
Have the Flash fall into Wonder Woman's boobs because 12-year-olds are watching this.
Did that actually happen in that version of the movie?
Yeah. Yep.
Moving a little fast, are we? But did you see while we're talking about it, you must have seen the Flash, the new Flash movie.
Yeah, I hated it.
Yeah, you hated it.
I hated it.
Wow.
I thought it was the worst.
I don't think. I mean, I think I said some nice things about it on the pod. I now have some distance from it. I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going back to that movie.
No, you're never.
Look,
Ezra Miller in particular, I found like very intolerable.
He's tough. He's tough. There's two of them. There's fucking two of them.
okay, we actually talked about this a little bit on WhatsApp or something, and I don't
On Tinder.
Yeah, I don't want to hash this all out again, but
We were chatting about this on Tinder
And Grinder.
and Grindr.
I don't like Ezra Miller, and I don't like his take on that character. But I thought that he was the best thing in that film, and just hear me out.
Yeah, that's fucking. You know what? Not since Old Country for Old Men have you been so wrong.
Okay, hear me out. He was the only one in that film who was playing a role that required anything of him. He had to play two different versions of himself, and you could always tell which one was which. And
Yeah, their hair was different.
well, it was just I would say it's not just the hair was different. One of them,
Yeah, one was obnoxious, one was very obnoxious.
one was very obnoxious, and one was just kind of obnoxious, but he had to be mature at times, and he was.
Right.
And now I think he did that by playing the more obnoxious one like he was on coke, and the other one like he had adult ADHD on steroids. I'm not saying it was a good performance. I'm saying it was a performance. He played something. He did something.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton was there, and he wore the suit. He had about 5 lines in the whole film, and everything else was just it's Michael Keaton in the bath suit again.
You know, I don't necessarily feel cheated. Like, oh, I didn't even get to see Tim Burton's Batman in this because he's in a fair amount of it, and yet I did walk away being like, it would have been nice if I got more of that, but.
The thing is, that Batman character had absolutely nothing to do with that film. He had no story arc of his own. He had no conflict of his own. He had nothing needed to be resolved with him.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, he was just there to be Batman on screen again, and I think it really takes away from that character.
Maybe we would have gotten that in Batgirl, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
That was the director of It 1 and It 2, which I found those films kind of fascinating too, because they made the first one about when they were kids, then they made the second one when they were adults, and they basically redid the first movie. It's the strangest damn thing because like all the major story points are retold in the second one, making the first one redundant.
Oh, wow.
And then it's bloated anyway. It's like, okay, I get it. There's a lot of like, okay, I get it going on in the tonally and visually they're interesting and some of the performances are cool. Bill Hader, I think, actually was pretty awesome in the second one. And they got an okay Pennywise. And, he's iconic and all that, which is a feat to follow Tim Curry. It's impressive, but.
Yeah.
But those would be interesting Confused Matthew movies because they're the screenwriting is tiresome.
Oh, they didn't put in the child group sex scene, did they?
No,
Okay.
thank God.
No.
Okay, that's very
anyway.
interesting. I've never seen any It film, and I've never read the book. The only thing I know about it is the weird ass child group sex scene that everybody talks about.
That's Stephen King is a fucking asshole.
He was doing a lot of coke. He was like, okay, and then the kids run a train on the girl
Oh my god, Jeez.
in the sewer.
Steven.
Holy shit!
I can't stop.
So what is that? What else is there to say about Deadpool Wolverine? Well, yeah, for me, when I think of that movie, now that it's been a year, to be honest with you, man, I just think about the third act. I think about When You Call My Name, when he first pops on the mask, because even though there's no story function for the mask. It's just to satisfy people who want to see things look a certain way. It lit me up, and and then when they have to save the world, they come out to that song, and I don't want the world to see me, all that stuff, and I actually. One of the things that warmed my heart in the movie was seeing him with his kid from Logan, because I really like Logan. I think Logan's like one of the best fucking comic book movies ever made.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You ever see a movie that you're not so sure about it, and then the ending is just so good you can't really deny the movie, or there's just like one scene that sticks out in your mind, and that alone kind of carries the memory of the film.
Yep.
That's kind of what's going on with me with the third act, I think.
Yeah.
When you call my name, it's like a little prayer.
I'm down on my knees.
And he's like looking at the chorus comes up that they record for the
Looking at his
movie.
abs during a really tender
And looking
moment.
at his fucking hot abs.
It's really him, I'm told. 'Cause people were thinking it was stunt abs because that mask, obscures the facts of his abs.
As I think back on it now, I only saw this about a month ago, and the two things that I remember are the van fight scene, which I thought was inspired. That first time where you see Chris Evans and you think he's Captain America and it turns out he's the other guy, that was great. And then
very funny.
I remember all the Deadpools that came out and they fought all the Deadpools. And those three things.
The tracking shot.
Yeah.
That sounded like a confused Matthew joke, by the way. Just the construction of that.
No, it wasn't. I'm serious.
It sounded like one. It sounded like, and he fights all the Deadpools.
He fights all the Deadpools.
There's a million Deadpools.
There's a baby Deadpool.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing. You probably haven't heard about this. There's a whole drama with Ryan Reynolds and his wife with that movie.
Really?
Wait, is it this movie or is it just like in general? Isn't there like a lot of drama like in the ether right now about them?
Like right this moment, yeah. In a nutshell, Blake Lively, his famous wife, starred in a film called "It Ends with Us." It's a Lifetime movie. That's what it is. It's like it's a cheeseball movie about like a woman who ends up in a abusive relationship. And the abusive guy who looks like a model, he was the director of the film. And and the book was like Twilight levels of famous, I guess. I had never heard of it. But apparently it was, one of those big, smutty kind of books that sold really well. And then the movie, I guess, made a lot of money. And, her publicity carried it and stuff. And then there was some drama during the publicity, something about, people dug up old interviews with her where she was an asshole. She made some pregnant lady feel bad about herself or something. No, she wasn't she couldn't get pregnant. Who cares? Anyway, she made a lady feel bad about herself. And there was rumors that she and the director who played the guy who she was in the abusive relationship with, that they butted heads and that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds took over the whole production. Well, come to find out, yeah, they were in like serious disputes the whole time. He had made some comment that made her feel self-conscious about her weight. Ryan Reynolds got super pissed off, tried to take over the movie. And then during the publicity, there was all this cross publicity with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman for Deadpool and Wolverine with this movie. And I guess it was them taking over the joint because she was a producer too. So now there's a lawsuit, and Nice Pool from this movie is cited in the lawsuit. Yeah,
the character, the guy who inspired Nice Pool
is the guy who directed It Ends With Us that she hated.
Oh,
so they were mocking him openly with this Nice Pool character. Because he was saying things like I'm a feminist and I'm a vegan, and I guess this guy was like a self-professed feminist and vegan, and then there's a scene in the movie where he gets riddled with bullets and because they hate him in real life. And,
that's a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Although Nice Pool is really nice, so I don't understand. It's actually kind of flattering.
I mean, I guess if I were defending Ryan Reynolds, I'd be like, Your Honor, Nice Pool is really nice.
I mean, sure, we riddled him with bullets, but that's just what happens in our movies.
Yeah, look, a lot of people die in our films.
Yeah.
The dog very nearly died, but Hugh Jackman saved him.
I didn't know he had a wife. Who was this?
Oh, yeah, right. So his wife plays Lady Pool. So like a hot lady comes out with a blonde ponytail and she's Deadpool. Blake Lively plays her, and Nice Pool kept in the movie is making comments like she just had a baby and you can't even tell and stuff like. So they were very clearly.
Okay, that's
and then she's the one who shoots him. She's the one with
That's petty.
Yeah. So I do just a little bit of trivia for you about the Reynolds.
You're going to be like, where? How the fuck did he get on this track? But I'm going to say it anyway. There's a Beach Boys album called The Beach Boys Love You. And it was mainly written by Brian Wilson, who was the genius of the group. He was going to make it his solo album, and then he decided to make it just a regular old Beach Boys album. It's semi-autobiographical. It talks about how he cheated on his wife. And then he talks about how his wife cheated on him, and he's sad about that, which I don't think he deserves to be because he cheated on his wife. And then one of the songs has him singing a song to his wife, and his wife sings on the track. This is the wife that he cheated on, and they're singing together, and they got divorced a year later. And it's totally not weird at all. And the moral of the story is, don't involve your spouses in your work. It never works out well.
I'm gonna have to go back in time and tell myself this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for you. No, you and your wife, I think you're pretty much forever. But if you have a rocky relationship or a
A strange Hollywood relationship.
Just
Yeah.
leave your damn spouses out of it.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, what I wonder what the retention rate is for marriages in Hollywood.
Very interested to know. Yeah.
Got to be 5% or something.
Oh my goodness, wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby too, and can't even tell.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.
Landscape.